Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thank you for checking out the weekly comic book review here on Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups. This is the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and I do appreciate your patience in the delay in the video this week. Last night I went and saw Kiss, and it was awesome. It was amazing. It was a dream come true. So thank you so much. Let's get right into it with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Orphan Age #1. I was very impressed with this book. Just kind of picked it up because it's a new one from Aftershock Comics. It's written by Ted Anderson, who wrote Moth and Whisper, a book I really like from this company as well. It's got artwork by Nuno Platti with coloring by Joano Lemos and lettering by Marshall Dillon. Really liked this issue. Thought it was super strong, a very solid debut. Really cool concept. The basic concept is, mysteriously and randomly, one day, everybody over 13 years old just dies off, right? So this book picks up 20 years later, and we get to see how civilization has evolved or de-evolved as a direct consequence of this mysterious disappearing of all the adults, right? So really cool to see, first of all, this world being built up, and it's built up very well and very delicately throughout the book, through the narration, through the dialogue and all that kinds of stuff. The artwork is really, really strong. Platti's got really cool, beautiful, strong line work with luscious colors by Lemos that really add some moody atmosphere to the book. Really cool to see how things have changed. It's a great world that's been built up. The entire team comes together to make one really great debut, solid first issue that I absolutely loved and thought it was super strong, and not just a sleeper hit of the week, but the pick of the week. It's a good comic book week, but Orphan Age #1 took it from me. Top prize, Orphan Age, right there. Pick of the week. Let's move on to Marvel. We got a new Web of Venom book, Cult of Carnage. So now we know Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, and company are building up to this absolute carnage storyline, right? Well, the seeds have already been planted, and they really start blossoming in this one-shot. It's written by Frank Thierry, with artwork by Danilo S. Beyruth and Andreas Mosa. Really, really great book. I really did like it. If you've been following Venom, if you're a Carnage fan, you're really going to like it. There's a return of some old Carnage family favorites. It's a nice harken. Remember Carnage USA, right? That book where he took over that whole town in Colorado. This goes back to that. It spotlights Misty Knight and John Jameson. So if you're a fan of those characters, if you're a Carnage fan, it's kind of a must-read. Really good work, setting up some stuff that's going to be coming that's really going to pay off hardcore. Cult of Carnage was really, really solid. I really did like that first issue. War of the Realms has started having all the tie-ins, and also all that stuff start happening. Journey into Mystery is the first part of a 5-issue miniseries. It's written by the McElroys with artwork by Andre Lima Araujo and Chris O'Halloran. Really, really pumped to see this book because I'm a huge fan of that art team from books like Generation Gone and such. This was alright though. It was okay. First of all, the basic gist of this story is it's Balder the Brave, and he has to like throw together this team, and they have to protect Thor's little baby sister. Well, that's news to me. I didn't even know that Thor had a little baby sister. Did I miss something somewhere in the Jason Aaron run? Did I miss something somewhere else? Is this supposed to be new and a surprise? I have no idea at all. But it's a pretty decent story, but it's alright. It kind of fell flat for me. I did like the artwork. It's a little bit more cluttered feeling than I'm used to from Araujo. The coloring by O'Halloran too, they just weren't quite as poppy and as bright as I typically am used to. Maybe my expectations were a little bit different. Of course, now over at Marvel, you got editorial kind of dictating a lot of what you're allowed to do artistically and stuff like that. I did like the artwork in the issue overall, but the issue was alright. It's a cool cast of characters. You got Miles Morales, you got Deathlock 2.0, you got Kate Bishop's Hawkeye. Really cool characters, but didn't really come together in anything. It was alright, but it's definitely not super essential, it seems, at this point, one issue in, to the entire War of the Realms story. So it could definitely easily be a skippable, passable tie-in. At least that's what it seems to be presented after issue #1. So I was kind of slightly disappointed in that one. Symbiote Spider-Man #1 is out, the first of a lot of Spidey books out today, so let's talk about him. Symbiote Spider-Man is set back in the day when Spider-Man had the black costume. In fact, when it was specifically the alien costume, because he continued with that black costume for a while, even after he got rid of the symbiote, right? So this is an untold tale of a story about him and Mysterio, because Mysterio's in the new Spider-Man movie coming up, right? They're gonna kind of like homage, a little bit of the black costume, it seems, with that stealth suit from the new Spider-Man film. But this issue was all right. It's written by Peter David, and it's consistent. That's what Peter David is. He's a consistent writer. It's exactly what you would expect from him. It's a little tongue-in-cheek at times, but a very serviceable, decent story that really does try to make you feel bad a little bit for Quentin Beck, who, aka Mysterio. But it's just overall a little clunky. I don't like Greg Land's artwork that much at all. It's got even Coelho and a few other people in there, but the artwork wasn't really doing much for me. The story didn't really ultimately do that much for me. There were some inconsistencies it felt in the timeline. It just didn't really quite come together for me. So I didn't really like the Symbiote Spider-Man #1, but I did like Amazing Spider-Man #19. I've been loving what Nick Spencer and company have been doing with this book. This hunted story is pretty neat, pretty nifty, and now we got a cool shift in the story with this issue. I've really been liking it. I think Nick Spencer's got a great grasp of Peter Parker's voice, of Spider-Man's character, of Kraven, of the villains. It's interesting to see how the story has unfolded. I'm really liking it. Nick Spencer has a nice talent being able to take some of these D-list villains and kind of like flesh them out, round them out a little bit. That starts happening even more so in these pages of Amazing Spider-Man. But overall, I'm loving what Spencer is doing. I'm loving everything. I'm not usually the biggest Sandoval fan, but it does kind of fit him coming in right after Humberto Ramos. It's kind of a similar style, not quite the same, but it does have less of a jarring effect when it shifts over, definitely for the trade paperback. But I'm loving the hunted storyline right now in Amazing Spider-Man. Issue 19 was fantastic. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #5 is out this week. It's written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Yildiray Cinar, Nolan Woodard on the coloring. Really decent issue. In this issue, Aunt May tells Peter that she has cancer, right? And what promised to be a really, really deep, hard-hitting, impactful Spider-Man issue kind of skirts around a little bit for the majority of the middle of this story. I get the idea. I like what Tom Taylor's doing with the character. I like Peter's response. I like how it all winds up. But something about it just felt a little thin and a little fake and a little too just forced for me. I don't know. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, though, has been a pretty decent story. There are some things in here, though, like the web swinging in the car thing. That's a little weird. It's a little weird and wonky. But I do like the framing. I do like the beginning and the end. It's just the middle bit. It's a little wonky and fake feeling for me, unfortunately. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #5 is out this week. Invaders #4 is out by Chip Zdarsky and company. I fell behind on Invaders. I got caught up, had some extra time after the Kiss show, checked it out. Really liking this series. I don't know why I gave up on it after issue 2, for real. But I read issue 3 and 4, reread 1, 2, and then 3, and now 4. I'm really liking it. It's really a Namor-focused book. Zdarsky's doing a really nice character study on Namor, taking all these different bits from the past. We're talking about Golden Age stuff, we're talking about Silver Age stuff, we're talking about John Byrne, Oracle Inc. type stuff. All these different elements from Namor's backstory coming together to make this great character study. Zdarsky did the same thing with Marvel 2-in-1, Spectacular Spider-Man, Daredevil right now. He really has a great grasp on Marvel history and how to take that classic history and integrate it into a fresh, modern story that really respects what came before, but has its own unique, distinct voice that blazes ahead on its own direction. Really cool stuff. Glad I got caught back up on Invaders #4 out this week. Avengers No Road Home, the penultimate issue of the book. This didn't do much for me. It's alright. There are a couple little scenes. There's a nice little scene where each of the Avengers has to be honest about what they actually want out of life. There's a great scene there with Conan, for instance. But overall, the story has just been too long, too engorged. This could have been done in 5 to 6 issues, and you feel the lag. And I've been feeling the lag for the last few issues. It was a nice trick bringing Conan in when they did in the middle of the story, because by the time we got through the initial impact of Conan's arrival into the Marvel Universe, well, there's only a couple issues left. Might as well read them, right? Yeah, I'm suckered in too. But anyway, not liking it at all. Captain Marvel #4, really liking this book. Kelly Thompson's doing a great job with the character of Carol Danvers. This is a really fun, cool story. I really like it. The basic idea is it's the nuclear man, and Carol goes to stop him, and he has erected this boundary, this dimensional force field or something like that, right? So there's this post-apocalyptic dystopia going on in New York, on Roosevelt Island or whatever, right? But I'm really liking this story. In this issue in particular, Carol has to confront Rogue. And Rogue, of course, is the one who stole her powers and memories and all that stuff so long ago. So a lot of stuff from the past gets brought back up, but it's also a really fun story. Kelly Thompson's got a great just grasp on Carol Danvers' character, on Captain Marvel's voice, on her actions, and on Rogue too. Of course, she writes the Mr. and Mrs. X story right now, doing a great job. Carmen Canero and Tamara Bonvillain just knocking it out of the park with the artwork. It's action-packed, it's big, it's explosive, it's exactly what it needs to be for a Marvel superhero comic book. Captain Marvel finally has a book at the level where I think she deserves and where they need to be placed, because her movie's kind of a hit, and I'm really, really pumped for this book. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely love it. The Unstoppable Wasp is here with issue number 6 of the 2nd volume. Jeremy Whitley's doing a great job. In the first volume, taking Nadia Pym, a new character, someone who has this like tragic, dark past, and turning her into this really charming, infectiously so, charming, bright, positive character. And in the 2nd volume, he's going a little bit deeper with it. He's peeling back some of those layers. He's talking about things like mental health. He's talking about things about society. I'm really, really liking the direction right now in Unstoppable Wasp. There's not so much action-packed type stuff in this issue at all, but there are some nice, real human moments I really, really like, and I like the direction on the book right now. Unstoppable Wasp, number 6 out this week. Dead Man Logan is here with an issue number 6. Ed Brisson's doing a great job. This is the big cap, send away, send off, farewell to Old Man Logan. This book has not been quite what I expected it to be, and I really like it. It's turned my expectations on its nose. It's kind of wrapped up dealing with the Mysterio stuff now, and now the story kind of slows down for just a moment. Old Man Logan has a few more loose ends to tie up, and then where this issue leads, I'm really pleased, I'm really cool, and we still got 6 issues to go. Very excited. It's a long death of the Old Man Logan, if in fact that's what it turns out to be, but I'm loving it. It's great, and if you look at the cover, yes, Old Man Logan meets not quite so Old Man Logan. Really cool moment for Wolverine fans. Definitely want to check that out. X-Force number 6 is here. I'm starting to get really hooked on this book. I really, really am. I thought it had some problems in the first arc, but man, I'm really like getting into this. I really like the idea of Kid Cable, and in the last issue, they really explained why Kid Cable came back, how that came to be, what his world was like, and then we get introduced into this new Kid Strife, right? First of all, really loving the redesign on Strife right now. That's really, really cool. I always thought Strife had like a kind of really cool costume for some reason. But I really like this redesign. It's sleeker, it's cooler, it's a little bit more menacing for me. But this does what the last issue did for Kid Cable, this does for Kid Strife, if you want to call him that. A little bit on his backstory, how he's been playing the whole game throughout the entirety of X-Force right now. Lots of explanation, lots of pieces that fit the pieces that didn't quite so make. I'm really liking what Ed Brisson and company are doing on X-Force right now. I think it's a nice throwback to the old school stuff, but different, unique, fresh, young, hip, things like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Age of X-Man rolls on through, and it's starting to wear a little thin on me. It's a lot happening. We're all excited about Hickman coming on. It's just all this stuff's happening. I do like the basic idea of the Age of X-Man. I've talked about that before. I like how it's like completely flipped the Age of Apocalypse. It's not a mutant dystopia, it's a mutant utopia, but it's still just as evil and just as bad. And X-Man's like the bad guy, and Apocalypse is like the good guy. He's like this hippie good guy, right? But this issue is alright. It's okay. We also have Marvelous X-Men out this week. This issue was a whole lot better. This, of course, is written by Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler. They are the architects of the Age of X-Man, so this is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck as far as that story goes. All this other stuff is just meant to be kind of like supplemental and peripheral, right? And that's kind of what the Age of Apocalypse was like. But I do feel like the Age of Apocalypse, each book meant a little bit more. Unfortunately, some of these books feel like they don't mean as much as Marvelous X-Men. Like, it feels like you could just read Marvelous X-Men, you'd get the whole story and the basic gist of the story without needing all the extra stuff. But some of the extra bits are pretty good. Prisoner X, for instance, is really good. Next Gen is pretty good. Apocalypse and the Extracts, though, is just not quite catching on to me. Marvelous X-Men, though, was pretty cool, and I thought this was a decent gist of moving the story a little bit forward. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get through a bunch more issue 3s until we can move that story even further into its conclusion. So I guess that's the biggest problem with it. Star Wars reaches the Age of Rebellion. So they just finished off these one-shots. Age of Republic, Jody Hauser wrote them, spotlighting all these various heroes and villains from the prequel sagas, right? Now they're doing it for the original trilogy, that timeline, the Age of Rebellion. This one is about Grand Moff Tarkin This was one of the best ones of these yet. It was amazing. Greg Pak now is going to be writing the Age of Rebellion stories, and I really like this Tarkin. It really explains a lot of his backstory, a lot of his history, about who he is, about why he commands respect. I really like this one. I thought it was really, really cool. The artwork, too, by Mark Lamming was pretty solid, pretty spot on. Has a nice feeling of that classic Star Wars movie. But man, you do not want to mess with Tarkin, and they proved that in that issue right there. Also from the Age of Rebellion, we have Princess Leia out this week. This one I didn't like near as much, even with Chris Sprouse on the artwork, which was great. I loved seeing that. It did get a little inconsistent with some other artists filling in some pages here and there, but they did kind of keep the same style and flow throughout it. This is a neat little story. If you're a huge Star Wars head, this story is about Leia in between Empire and Jedi, like how she assumes that role of the bounty hunter, how she hooks back up with Lando, how they devise this plan to save Han from Tatooine. So it's nice to fill in some of those gaps if you're interested and you want to know what actually happened. There it is right there, but it didn't really have as much bang as that Grand Moff Tarkin book did. I really liked that one shot. The Princess Leia one was okay. Let's jump over to DC. The Batman Who Laughs, number 4, the first of many Batman books out today, and we'll talk about those real quick. Batman Who Laughs, number 4, is a very dark, twisted issue. I really like this. This has been a dark, twisted series. The Batman Who Laughs it's got some kind of crazy plan. Snyder's doing this stuff. It's going to be somehow related into what the whole gist of what's going on in the future with the Justice League books and all that stuff, but I'm liking it right now. Joker, or the Batman Who Laughs and the Joker, like Batman himself is now being infected. He's slowly turning into a Jokerized version of himself, and it's like really, really interesting to see some big dark things happen here. Jock's artwork, though, is the highlight for me. Absolutely menacing, twisted, scary, just absolutely crazy. Some big moments here, real fun stuff. Batman Who Laughs, number 4, out this week. It's got my seal of approval. Another one with my seal of approval is Detective Comics 1001. So now that 1000 has come and gone, we've all had that big celebration of 80 years of Detective Comics with Batman in it. Now we've got it just going on, right? They're going to be introducing Arkham Knight, which is from the video game, but don't let the video game spoil things for you. I don't think it's supposed to be what happened in the video game in here, but I did like this. The first part of the medieval story that was teased in that 1000. Peter Tomasi is joined by Brad Walker, and Brad Walker is honestly given some of the absolute best work I've ever seen from this cat. Really cool artwork, nice double-page spreads, really cool detective story, a big mystery that sparks up. Everybody that wants Detective Comics to be detective work and things like that, you're going to get that in here. It's really, really cool. A nice Man-Bat scene, too, that really throws back to some of the first early episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Peter Tomasi and company doing a great job with Detective Comics. I'm really, really liking it. Tom King's Batman is here with issue number 68. I think this is the final part of the Nightmare story arc. We're going to get a lot more explanations in the coming issues. This was one of the weaker ones of the last few months for me, aside from the price tie-ins. Didn't really like this one that much, but at the end, it really kind of like turned and got really, really good. Basically, this is a story about Selena and Lois having like a bachelorette party, like a private bachelorette party at the Fortress of Solitude, and then while that's going on, Superman and Batman are having a nice quiet evening at Wayne Manor having dinner together. But of course, this is all tied into the Nightmare story. Things are not quite what they seem, and then when you get to the last page, I got really excited to see what's going to be coming up in the pages of Batman. I like what Tom King's been doing with Batman. It's taken a while for me to kind of get into it. Some issues just shine so bright. Some issues get a little clunky. This is one of those clunky ones. It's all right. It's okay. But when you get to the end, it kind of hooks it back in. Really kind of makes it a little bit more impactful with that ending there. Superman number 10 is out this week. Brian Michael Bendis continuing the explanation of what happened to Jonathan when he went off with Jor-El and why exactly he has come back aged like 10 years or something. Now he's a teenager, right? So you get the final part of that explanation, and everything's cool and it works, and then you get a big part in here and you're like, whoa, and it brings the story back into the current present time. Ivan Reyes' artwork comes back, and then you realize exactly why we've been loving this Superman book. It's got great detailed texture artwork from Ivan Reyes. Even the Brandon Peterson bits, some of the best work from him I've seen in absolute just years and decades even probably. But Superman number 10 was a very enjoyable issue. I did like it. I like the setup for what's to come. I'm really, really excited for the next issue. And I like that they're kind of addressing the two books right now. Action Comics, all this Leviathan stuff happening. Superman, they're kind of like, they're starting to balance it a little bit there, a little bit better. But wait a minute, when Ivan Reyes is on this artwork here, Ivan Reyes' artwork is fantastic, especially on Superman. That's some of his best artwork ever. Flash number 68 is here, continuing this trickster story. And what's really cool in this issue is you find out it's not just a trickster story, it's still tied in with everything that Joshua Williamson has been building up. So we're about to be starting Flash Year 1, where Williamson's going to jump to the past, re-explain Barry Allen's origin for a new generation, but right now we're getting a really cool trickster story with both versions of the trickster. Really liking it, especially Scott Collins on the artwork. He did a lot of the Flash stuff back when Jeff Johns was writing it in the Wally West days. Really cool stuff, and this is some of the best artwork I've seen from him in years. Really cool, very clean, still his style, still fast, still ferocious, still a little uneasy at times, but it's just so pristine in this issue. I thought it was better than some of the recent work I've seen from him. Really a return to form for Scott Collins. This Flash story has been pretty fun. I've been liking it. Hawkman number 11 is here. This is the second to last issue for Brian Hitch, and in this issue the artwork gets a little sloppy. It starts getting a little bit sloppy. I've been really high on the praise for Brian Hitch because of Hawkman, because he's been able to do this book consistently and he hasn't missed a deadline yet. In this one though, the artwork does get a little rushed, a little sloppy, but aside from that, it's still fantastic. The majority of the artwork is spot on, epic and huge and big. Every Hawkman you can ever think of appears in this issue. It's a big epic finale battle, penultimate issue almost, if you will. Of course, the series is going to continue on even without Brian Hitch, because Robert Vendetti's been doing a great job reestablishing who Hawkman is, who Carter Hall is, and all these different versions, all these different reincarnations, making it make cohesive sense in one big epic story, aided by that big epic artwork from Brian Hitch. Issue number 11 of Hawkman out today. Catwoman number 10 is here, and I'll be honest, it's starting to really lose me a little bit. I really think Joelle Jones has got a great knack for dialogue, great knack for pacing in a comic book. She doesn't do the artwork in this issue. It's Fernando Blanco with John Callies on the on the coloring, and the artwork is nice. I do like it. I like the artwork. I like the setup, but ultimately it's just starting to get a little boring to me. I'm just not really into the whole story. I like her characterization of Selina. I like her pacing. I love her flow. I love her dialogue, Joelle Jones. But the story itself, it's just starting to wear thin on me. It's something I'm not really that into right now. It's like starting to wear me out. And so I don't know if this is going to be the last issue of Catwoman I read, but it's just starting to bore me. It's starting to be a little bit boring. A book that's not boring, though, is Wonder Twins. Wonder Twins number 3 is out this week. I loved this issue. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I'm loving this book. Mark Russell, Stephen Byrne, just doing an absolute fantastic job with this. Great, colorful artwork, clean line work, really cool stuff. Really quirky, tongue-in-cheek, doesn't take itself too seriously, but then it also takes itself very seriously with its theme. So in the midst of this very humorous story, because it is the Wonder Twins, and they've, by the way, Russell and company have integrated the Wonder Twins into DC continuity fine, perfectly. Like, oh, the Wonder Twins, I was always that guy that would be like, no, they should never have the Wonder Twins in the comics, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. Now, I'm super pumped, and I'm kind of sad that this is only a mini-series. I hope Russell and Byrne come back and do even more of this. I love the Wonder Twins, but this is a nice spotlight on Gleek as well. Man. It's the Wonder Twins for a new generation, and it works, and it's fun, and it's kooky, but it's also very serious, and it's got great thematic value. Absolutely fantastic. Wonder Twins number 3 out this week. A new one from Image Comics debuts, Fair Lady number 1. So it's like a fantasy setting. And fair ladies are like, she's the only, like, they're basically like cops. The fair men are basically like cops. She's the only woman fair man, so she's a fair lady. The cool thing about this is it's a new comic book, and each issue is going to be a one-shot, basically. Each issue is going to be like a 5-issue arc or whatever, an ongoing series, but each issue is a one-and-done story. It's kind of like harkening back to the old school method where each issue was going to have its own thing, and then there's a subplot and an overall story. So I like that approach. I think that's cool. Ultimately, though, the book didn't really do much for me. Didn't really like it that much. I really did like the artwork. I like the coloring, but ultimately, it just felt cliche. It just felt boring. It just felt normal. Nothing stood out for me. Nothing really grabbed me. Nothing hooked me, made me want to come back and read another issue. So Fair Lady number 1 for me was just a little bit of a dud this week. Murder Falcon number 7, though, the penultimate issue. That's like seriously my favorite word, right? Anyway, Murder Falcon number 7 is out this week. It's great. We slow down the story just a little bit. It's odd to say that the story slows down because it doesn't. There's still lots of giant epic monster and heavy metal action that happens in this issue, but it does take a step back and get ready, the calm before that storm that is going to be the finale. I've loved this book. Daniel Warren Johnson has done such an amazing job with this title. It's fresh. It's high energy. It's kinetic. It just pops. It's fire. It's like heavy metal. It's in your face. It grabs you and it just doesn't let go, and it shakes you. It shakes you and it makes you pay attention. It's bizarre. It's absurd. It's deep. It's tragic. It's about loss. It's about hope. It's about optimism. It's about pessimism. It's about reality. It's about fantasy. It's about so much for a book that's about a dude who controls a murder falcon with a guitar. But it is so much more than that. This has got so many dimensions and layers that this book is just exceptional. Murder Falcon number 7, no exception. Prodigy is here with issue number 5? Issue number 5 of Prodigy. Raphael Albuquerque's artwork, fantastic, fluid, high energy, great dynamic motion throughout the book, a nice turn in the story. I really liked this book when it first started out, and then I kind of started getting a little too Mark Millar for me. But in this issue, it's still a very Mark Millar book, but it kind of turns the corner and gets me a lot more captivated with this issue. So I thought this was a really good issue that kind of course corrected a problem I had maybe in the mid part of the story. So it's going to be cool to see the finale, how it wraps up, and just to read it all together one day and see what happens. But it's a really cool vehicle. The only problem with Mark Millar's stuff right now is it seems like everything he's writing is a vehicle for a movie or a TV show. You need to make a comic book to make a comic book, not to like try to sell a movie or a TV show idea, right? And right now it just feels like Mark Millar is just trying to create things that are going to especially with this Netflix deal, right? You know, Prodigy is probably going to be a TV show on Netflix or a movie or something like that. They're probably already like ready for it, right? He probably already knew who's going to play him or who he wants to play him when he's writing this character. And it's an interesting character. It's really, really cool. It can be played excellently by a lot of different actors. But it just feels not as soulful as some other original creative works in the comic book industry right now. Like Ronan Island. Ronan Island number 2 was fantastic. I really did like it. Not as strong as the setup of issue number 1. It did get a little bit more muddy, a little too reliant on our remembering what happened in issue number 1. Unfortunately, I've probably read like 200 comics since then, so I couldn't really quite remember exactly who everybody was and what they represented, so I had to go back and kind of think about it a little bit. But the flow of the story was pretty cool. I do like the artwork. It's really fun. I do like it. It's a nice, like, you know, I don't know. I really like this issue. It's hard to describe without really trying to spoil anything, but it's monsters, it's samurai, it's really cool. I really like it. There's big monsters. It's everything about like pop culture, Asian pop culture that the Western world loves. All that stuff in one nice little bow, but it's not like over the top. It's not like derivative or anything like that. Greg Pak has done a great job with these characters, with this world, fleshing this out. 2 issues in, I'm sold. I like it. I like it a lot. Go-Go Power Rangers is here with issue number 9, and this is just a great comic book. Much less just one of the best Power Ranger stories we've ever gotten. It's just a great comic book. Ryan Parrott and company are doing a great job of really making this a character-driven study. And one thing that you would never have said ever about the Power Rangers was that it was character-driven. But Ryan Parrott has made it character-driven. He's made those characters matter. He's made me care about those characters more than just a nostalgic love from my childhood and things like that. Really great story, setting up a lot of interesting untold tales about how the Green Ranger stuff comes to be. Very high energy, action-oriented artwork. Really cool character stuff. It's a low-key, subtle character study. And it's really cool. It's a Power Rangers book. It's awesome. You know, I was like disappointed. I was like, I want every issue to be like, you know, Zords and fighting and all that stuff. Nah, it didn't have to be. Finally, let's talk about Livewire. Number 5 is out this week, written by Vita Ayala. Really liking her work a lot. Really liking their work a lot. Really liking this issue. I thought it was really solid. It's a new story, so if you didn't read the first one, you can jump right into here. It does rely a little bit on your knowledge of what has happened in the Valiant universe before, but it kind of does a great job of just kind of keeping it going. Really cool artwork, great coloring. Like I said, Ayala, they're one of my absolute favorite up-and-coming creators right now. I think they're doing great work and just solid. Fantastic stuff. And also, finally, let's talk about this. Hot Lunch Special is available in trade paperback now from Aftershock Comics. It's written by Elliot Rahal with artwork by Jorge Fornes. It is absolutely fantastic. Taylor Esposito is the letterer. It is such a great blue-collar crime fiction book about a Midwestern family that owns like a food company, something like that. Really good stuff. One of my favorite books of last year. The conclusion was just a couple months ago. It was a great, satisfying conclusion. I would love to see this return. It's open for it to return. This is even labeled Volume 1, so let's hope that this returns. And if you want this book to return, go out and get this trade paperback. Tell everybody how awesome it is, because it really, really is. I think you deserve to read this book. You should totally check it out. I'll throw a link in the comments in the description down below. So that's what I got for you this week. What did you read? What did you like? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. And you can follow me on Twitter at @Rockin Robbie. I've been Rockin Robbie. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.